everybody's doing well. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Looks like there might be at least a couple of you, perhaps. I botched the beginning of the last one, because why wouldn't I? It literally came down to, it came down to a bunch of things. Let me actually get the microphone in front of me, and we'll talk more about that. So, there it is. So what had happened is I wanted to do a live video because I just got off the thing with Andy Lederman. He's doing well. Sounds like everybody else is doing well, which is totally cool. Sorry, I know it was a little off here for the first part. But I figured why not keep the party going. So here's what we're going to do. Hold on here. Let's just click into a few things here. Off the thing. There we go. I'm just trying to make sure everything's kosher over here. I feel bad for a multitude of reasons. So let's keep the chat going. I hope everybody's doing well. Is everybody doing well? I hope everybody's doing well. My apologies. It's literally me just coming up with the stuff hot on the spot. So we're probably making a fool out of myself at the moment. But I just wanted to continue on with the cue marks that we might have about amplifiers and just stuff like that in general. And I'm just clicking into things to get kind of lined up. So bear with me here while I do so. I'm just making sure I can see everybody as they were meant to be seen. I don't want anybody to get missed. There we go. Now I'm almost there. I can actually almost see everybody's thoughts spinning. I can see that there's two of you. That is amazing. I'm shocked that you're here with me still. You don't have to be here right now. I appreciate the fact that you are. So, let's see here. Let's see if I can get this thing to do what I want it to do. That'll have to do. So, more or less, some of you have perhaps seen the other video that I just recently posted about an hour ago, a couple hours ago now, about all my stuff up here. Of course, we were talking about just the PETA that it is to actually design all of this stuff and come up with content for you. Some of you appreciate it, perhaps some of you don't. I know some of you get tired of seeing my hands. I know that Andy Lederman wants to see my face. That's not going to happen anytime soon. It's for no other reason than I feel that it's distracting. I don't know. That's just a me thing. It's just a me thing. So I'm not as funny as he is. I'll tell you that right now. But I feel like I got a lot to show. I got a different game. I got a different game in the whole thing. I know that he likes to see the gut shots. I don't know that he's seen all of my videos, but I do have gut shots galore of some of my amps. I have a couple that are just already out and about. So we're going to go over here now to this is one of my my apologies. This is my 30 watt build. Sans some of the updates that I did to it. So you can see I didn't have it quite finished yet. I haven't even, dialed in the pilot light yet at this point. But the whole primary portion of the circuit is done. And you can just see, this is how I do my amps. I do it very clean. I do everything I can to make sure that everything is pointing up at you so you can see exactly what the values are. That's the plan. That's the whole name of the game, is clean, tight, clean, and all the above. Now, what I can tell you about this amp is do not just go through and start trying to copy what you see here. You won't have much luck. This is so the way. Let's go back to here. The way I do a build, and I think I've made it pretty clear in other videos before, is that I go through and I plan everything out. So I'll create a schematic, and then I'll create a layout, and then I'll take all the parts and I'll kind of set them where I need them to be, and I will mock up the parts almost literally virtually. I don't usually have them laid out like this in front of me, but I will lay them out kind of virtually. I have some software that I can kind of see all that stuff and see how they will lay out. And then I will build it exactly like that the first time around. So what you're seeing here is exactly what I would do normally. This is my 30 watt design built as if it were my 18 watt design. Oh, you can't see it yet. Hold on, we're getting there. So what you're seeing here is my 18 watt design built into a 30 watt amp as if I were going to build it as an 18 watter. But we already know that that's not going to work. This circuit right here, this is my kind of little preamp thing. It's different than everyone else's out there currently right now. It is a me thing. It is different, and it will not work with every single circuit that's out there. It just will not work, and I know that. And all my other amps, I know that it will not work like that. So I don't even bother trying to make it that way. But you have to start somewhere, and that's how I do it, is I start by creating the circuit and laying it out as if it were gonna be finished. So when I am done with the amp, while it may not be this exact circuit and layout, it will be laid out and cleaned up exactly as this one is. So obviously when I turn this amp on, as you see it right now, it did work. It sounded cool. I liked it. Don't get me wrong, but it didn't do the thing. And that is the huge part, I think, about building guitar amps, and that's where some of us differ on our ideas and our plans and our idea. Everything about what makes us do the things that we do is how we perceive what the end result is supposed to be. Now, I like tube rectifiers. There's a reason I like tube rectifiers. It doesn't really have much to do with anything other than I think they look cool. I mean, there's no denying that they look cool. They do a thing, which is the slow whole, the whole slow startup thing. That's not to say it's the best way to do it, but they kind of have the built-in slow start. And I like the way that they feel. Now, there is a feel aspect that comes to rectifiers. Obviously, this is a difference in opinion for most everyone out there. It has nothing to do with how the rectifier system and all that stuff is done necessarily. It's literally, it comes down to current flow. That's really what it comes down to. When you ask this thing to do too much work, it will sag. And that sag creates a feel, and that feel is what I am going after. My amps are low enough wattage that most of the time a GZ34 or even an EZ81, they're not affected by the power supply sag that much. There is a feel to it. There is a little bit of sag that comes directly from the rectifier itself, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, it's not that cut and dry. It's not A or B. There's something in the middle, and there is a difference. And maybe you can see right in there, I do have solid state protection diodes, if you will. So if by any chance this rectifier were to fail, those solid state diodes would take the place. They are there. They are there to do the job. So that is to say that if I were to take this amplifier out of the circuit, they would still do the function. Sans actually, actually no, that's not true. I lied a little bit. The amp would not work if I were to take those out, but if the tube itself were to say short internally, let's just say the tube went into thermal meltdown and decided it was gonna, sell the farm or whatever you want to call it, it would then rely on the solid state diodes to do the job, which is to say that it essentially becomes solid state rectified at that point. Obviously, I'm not using a high level of rectification, or not filtering. We're going to call it filtering. I use 47 UF. That's about as high as you can get away with when you start using these types of devices. Tube rectifiers, about 50 UF is the end of the line. I went over it in the last video. There's a practical limit. There's a practical limit only in the regard that once you are nearly decoupled, which is to say that you're within a hertz or two of 0 hertz, you've practically decoupled the AC element of the power supply away from the DC element of it. What does that mean exactly? Some people don't quite understand what that means. So we talked about it in the other video. I please beg you to go back and, not beg you, I don't beg you. Go back and watch it. If you don't understand, just watch it. I talked about it. It was HT, supply, the resistor, and capacitor values. What they do, what they mean, how they work, yada, yada, yada. But the plain and simple fact of it is that this guy here produces the DC element that is needed for the rest of this amplifier to work. It relies on this very first node right here, this 47 UF capacitor, to do most of that work. Even though the circuit itself doesn't actually seem to add up to that, that's what it does. It provides the reservoir that the remainder of the circuit will work off of. So this is a me thing, we're going back to me, not everybody does, but I like running lower voltage circuits. I don't really have many circuits that go above 400 volts. So when you're using a 500 volt rated capacitor and or resistor, it doesn't really bother them that much. They're within their design limitations. So I don't worry about that. Obviously with a rectifier, a tube rectifier, I don't have to worry about voltage spikes in that regard, at least to that regard. Most of my amps are also cathode bias, so I don't have a bias circuit that is unregulated. So I don't have to worry about that either. So there are reasons why I can go this way that don't affect the end result that much. A GZ34 in an amp like this isn't really getting dropped. It's not going to sag that much. There's not that much sag from a GZ34 in a circuit like this where it's only 30 watts, maybe 30 watts. Now, maybe in a 100 watt circuit, hell yeah, this thing is going to be stressing a little bit. It's going to be working. It's going to sag. But in a circuit like this, it's running at idle almost all the time. But there is a feel. It does do a thing. A lot of that feel comes from this guy right here. So this resistor that we're looking at here, right, this big white, and it's not the big white one, but it's the medium-sized white one that's in between these two capacitors. That guy right there is basically considered your sag resistor, if you will. This is the one that does the majority of the voltage drop. So if you think about it, from here, you're probably, in this amp, I think it was like 350 or something volts. So well underneath the rating of this particular resistor. And then it drops it down to like 325 volts on the other side. So it drops like 25 or 30 volts over the top of it, which isn't the most amount of voltage drop in the entirety of the amp, because we're going from like 360 or 350 or whatever to 330 or whatever it was over here, down to like 310 or 30 or maybe. No, I might be wrong. It's been a while since I've been in this amp and actually measured the voltages, so I'm kind of throwing some of these numbers out of my butt here, but I can see I do have some more phone. Hey, how's it going there? I appreciate you, Internet Money. Thank you for coming on. I know it's been a long day. It's been a really long day. So I'll talk more about all the deep stuff later, but I'm just trying to get into some of the reasons why I do what I do. I know that, okay, so Andy does not attack me. I know that some of you think that maybe he's like kind of putting me on the spot, Johnny on the spot or whatever. That's not what he's doing. He is literally trying to tell me something that he knows to be a fact. And that is true. He's not wrong. He is not wrong. I have a different design criterion. I have a different goal in mind. And that is, I think, kind of the difference between him and I is I have a goal in mind and he has a goal in mind. His goal is different than my goal. That's it. That's the only thing that's different. So I don't want anybody to ever feel like he's attacking me, and I don't want you to feel like I'm attacking him or his or anyone else's, really. There are design goals that come into this. Now, the only thing I think that separates the men from the boys is how they implement those goals. You know, if you build a crap amp built to a crappy standard, that is one thing. But if you build a great amp to a great standard, but you have a different goal in mind, that's a totally different issue altogether. So I think it's pretty self-evident at this point what the difference between our design goals are at this point. He does higher gain stuff. I do lower gain stuff. He does higher wattage stuff. I do lower wattage stuff. So my design criterion is a little bit different. I am probably going to try what he mentions with going what I consider to be called over filtering the power supply. I have 2 of my 18 watt designs sitting here, and to give you a reference of what those, I didn't pull it up. Hold on. You know what? You're going to get to see the nitty gritty. I have multiple accounts going on, so we're going to see it all right now, just in real time. I'm going to show you my drive. You're going to get to see all my cool stuff. Come on, let's go. So this guy right here. This is my 18 watt design right here. Let's see. There we go. So this is my 18 watt design right here. This is an amp that I have built. This is built from a kit. You can see the plug that I have used there. This took 2 years to come to this design, and it is similar in many ways to what you're looking in here. Cut 2 of these tubes out, these 2 outer tubes. That's more or less what that design is. But it is completely different. It is a completely different beast than this amp altogether. First of all, this one uses a GC34, which is a very stout, tube rectifier. There is no doubt that this tube rectifier is doing the biz, especially for an amp like this, which is realistically only plopping out maybe 28 some odd watts, right around 30 watts. It uses 4 EL84s, and you can see that I use this guy right here. Now, in this amp right here, I have about 325 volts on the plates of the power tubes. So it's like right around that ideal point. I did lower the voltage a little bit, so there's been a little bit of work in here to get it there. What I can tell you is that the very first tube, this one that's right up in here, you can kind of see my cursor circling around it. That tube, there are 310 volts on its plate. That's not a huge difference when you go from the plates of these tubes to these tubes. So it's pretty consistent all the way through this amp. And I kind of feel that's what makes this one a little bit magical in a sense. Is, you're kind of going from maybe 340, no, it's a little less than that. It's like 330 volts on this end here, down to about 310 volts over here. So we only dropped 30 volts from one end to the other. This one is a little bit different. So the way that I designed this one, I've got about 340, maybe 330. It's about the same, but I still have a little bit more voltage here on the ass end. But I changed this circuit up to use an what do they call it? It's an EF86. Sorry, I had to think about that for a second. So when I first built this amp, I built it literally as this design right here. So I put my parallel triode thing in the front end. That's what you're looking at here. That is not what is in this other amp over here. So when you're looking at this one, that's not what's in this amp. And that's not what's in this amp at all either. Or I should say the EF86 is not what is. Oh my God, I need to slow down apparently. Maybe I'm getting tired. What is in this amp right here with the parallel triode is what you see in this amp here, which is not what's actually in this amp right here. This amp uses an EF86. Everything from here on down this direction is the same. You can see I use a dropping resistor on each power tube. I did end up adding another one here. There's all kinds of little what ifs, right? It's all about voltages. When it comes down to the brass tacks, it's about having the right voltages in the right spots. I did end up going with something similar to this in this position here. It's a slightly different resistor at this point because I did bias it a little bit different. I actually went with a higher quality resistor, believe it or not. But this one did get us off the road, or off the, off the ground, if you will. But the big thing to take into consideration is how this amp works. And I still did it wrong in some regards. I don't know how I managed, but I did. So see this guy right here? This is my line. This guy right here is supposed to go into that one there. I got him backwards somehow. So you're seeing in real time how sometimes it just doesn't go the way you think it does. I did correct this, the actual build. So keep in mind that this is redone almost entirely, because there was so much work done over here, especially to this end and to the power section as well. But this end here was redone. So while this does come in here, it has been swapped over the correct direction. So this one here does come over to this one like it's supposed to, and the one that literally comes off of the line here does go into the tip like it's supposed to. Everything else has been pretty much done up. You can see here I hadn't even finished the amp yet. I didn't put the pilot light in yet, and if you look, if you wouldn't mind, up here you can see I didn't even finish wiring in what I use for my LED lighting. So this amp is going to go into a chassis that has LED lighting, and I don't have that portion of the circuit even wired in. So you can see I was still in the stages of finishing this. This guy right here is my mute switch. I will no longer be using that. Nobody uses the damn mute switch. I don't know what it is. I've given it away to I don't know how many different amps, but all of my clients that have my amps don't ever use this damn thing. They either turn the amp off or they turn it on. They don't ever use this little thing. And this one here is a more conventional style mute switch. It is set up to literally mute the phase inverter, I guess, if you will. It goes in between the phase inverter and the power tubes, and it just shunts the signal across, causing the signal to die. But you can kind of get an idea for how I wire my amps up. So this is what they kind of look like on the inside. Not too crazy, but you can see that everything is there. I use higher than normal grid stopper values. I got a nice, it's so pretty. Look at that perfect little ziggy zag right there. That's how I roll. I'm all about clean, tight, and straight lines. Like clean, tight, and straight lines. This is my Champers build, so I built this one for a buddy of mine. This is also not the as-built. I would never in a million years have this run here, running kind of as loosey-goosey as it is. These guys here ended up getting folded down and fitting into this section right in here. So when it fit into the chassis, this needed to lay down to clear space. As you can see, all of my HT stuff is down and out of the way. This one, the only thing that's changed here is I cleaned up the run so it doesn't go all the way out and over here, and then I put a grid stopper in. But this is what this looks like. This is what a Fender, what do they call it? It's not a Bronco, but like a Champion, I guess is what they call it. A Fender Champion looks like when it is done up with hand wiring. And you can kind of just see how I did everything. All nice, clean, tidy. All about clean and tidy. So that's what I do. That is what I do. There's not much different inside of here, I can tell you right now. It's just not as pretty as the other ones because this one is the prototype. You can see here I even had to bypass the one stage that was in there. So this went as a 3-tube amp. So if you don't know about the original 18-watt design, it was basically a clean channel, and then it had a tremolo channel. Now, the tremolo channel, for most people, they didn't use it. So they would find a way to bypass the tremolo aspect of it. But because it had an extra tube in the gain or in the stage, they would actually use it to push the output section a little bit harder. So they would turn the rate and depth all the way down if it had that or whatnot. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they would use that. It's getting late here. But they would use that to push the output section a little bit harder and get some more distortion out of it. Now, when I first got this amp, the clean channel sounded cool. It was probably the most usable of the two channels, but it didn't sound good. It was very barky. It had a bunch of front end to it. It just had this bark to it. I didn't like it, so I turned it into something else, more or less. I used it to cascade. I tried doing the JCM 800 thing. I tried probably 20, 30, 40, 50 different circuits in this guy. And over the course of 2 years, I finally settled on what I do now, or what I have now, which is essentially what you see here. A single 12AX7 ran in parallel. So it's a parallel triode. So there's only one input into it. I don't even bother with the high and the low input thing. It just didn't need it. So I have that. And then it goes through basically a low cut circuit, which is just a very basic kind of matchless style low cut circuit. It's modified a little bit differently, so it's a little what I consider to be out of the way, if you will. It literally transfers between this capacitor here that you see, which is like a 500 PF or something. It could be a 250 PF if you want it. It could be any value that you want it to be, really. But this one sets the low end of its value. And then this one here, which is some other value, which is like a 0.01 or 0.022, whatever you decide it for it to be. So it blends between the lowest value possible and the highest value possible. Those are what they do. And Andy is in the chat. He wants to see my face. Not going to happen, buddy. Not today. I thought you were going to bed, bro. So that's what that is. Goes into the low cut, goes into the master volume, which I guess you could call it a master volume. It's just a volume, but that volume goes into the phase inverter, which then has a post-phase master volume. So this amp almost relies entirely on having controllability between each gain stage. What is it? Wait, hold on. Bathtub. So I know you hate the bathtub resistors, but you got to keep in mind I've only got like 350 volts here, so I'm well underneath the limitations of those things. Don't go to bed. No, don't go to bed, bro. You're here now. You get to stick around for a little bit. I watched yours, now you gotta watch mine. But so yeah, difference in design. We're watching in real time now, everybody. We're watching in real time how we all think of just a little bit different. So yeah, that's that one. And just in case you weren't here before, I got to show you. This is a little Champers that I built, Andy. So you can kind of see this is how my rendition of a Champ amp. Oh yeah. No, yeah. Totally. I'm good. I know I'm good because I'm well underneath the voltage. I'm sorry. I probably have a little bit more delay than you have, so I haven't quite mastered the settings that you got. It seems to me like you can read the chat almost in real time, and I don't know if it's just because I'm not paying attention or because I need to work on settings in my whole thing to make it so that they're more instantaneous. I'm working on that part. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm not a live stream god at this point. But this one is, as you can obviously see, solid state rectified. So I do solid state rectification. Now, why does that differ in this amp versus this one here? So this one is Class AB. Class AB uses a little bit more current out of the power supply, which means it is more prone to sagging. A Class A amp does not have, and I'm not talking to you, Andy, I'm talking to everyone else, so just keep that in mind. A Class A amp does not have sag. It doesn't matter what type of rectification you use. The sag from the power supply does not exist because a Class A amp like this one here is using all the power all the time that it has available to it. So it doesn't matter what type of rectification you have. Once you set the bias on this thing, it's always pulling the same amount of power all the time. You can still put a sag resistor in there. What is he saying? Oh, that's what it is. For sure, that's what it is. Hold on. Cheers to you. I got my Modelo for you right now. I have another one in the freaking barrel ready to go, but I think we're done after this one. I managed to polish off this bottle here earlier today, actually during your stream, matter of factly, and now we're on the second step. So I am what you might call a professional alcoholic. There's a difference between a professional alcoholic and the rest of the world out there. More or less, I have it figured out, all right? I have it figured out. I'm not a danger to society. Once I've taken my sip, that's the end of the world, or end of the road. I'm not playing anymore. I am a freaking champ. You know it. I play hard too. So I have a different way of doing it, but I play pretty hard. In my old age, I'm going to go back to this other camera. In my old age, I have found a way to get lazier and lazier and lazier while still being just as productive. That's my only way of doing it. This is just the don't give a fuck sauce. Because, I work with people every day in a world that revolves around computers. And there's nothing worse than having somebody bitching and moaning at you about why their computer hasn't worked or doesn't work, and they haven't turned the damn thing off in over a month. And you wonder, like, okay, well, how many updates did you miss? How many freaking things did you push off that it was warning you about? It's only been telling you that it's been out of disk space for the last week, and you're now finally fucking telling me because you can't send out this freaking email that you freaking had to do? Yeah, right. Work smart, not hard. Work smarter, not harder. That's literally what my world is these days, is people just not paying attention to the notifications that their computer is trying to tell them. Hey, I need a break. That's what your computer tells you on occasion. So this is my don't give a fuck sauce right here. All right? Takes a lot of work to get there. But I'm a pro, all right? I'm a pro. Don't worry about me. Once I start drinking, the keys are on the counter. Daddy's not going nowhere. The milkman's not going to be here tomorrow. So, yes, as I was getting to, the rectifier supply on a solid state amp oh my god, solid state. A solid state rectifier or a tube state rectifier in a Class A amp such as this, it does not matter because a Class A amp is always pulling the same amount of current all the time. So, there is that. I don't know if you saw it, Andy, but this is one of my builds, and you can very much tell this is a handmade chassis right here. This is the chassis that I built. I cut every single chunk of wood out of here. So this is pine right here. Let's see if I can find another picture of it. That's the same one. So you can kind of see the side here. So each one of these little pieces was cut, and I inlaid these corners. So I have some mahogany here, red mahogany, sandwiched with walnut. So I took some 1/4-inch strips of walnut. Now these are inlaid. They are not, glued all the way through. Because if you look inside, let's see if I go back one, if you can see it. Oh, no, great. Now you can see who I really am. You can't see it in here, but if you were to look up at the top there, that piece of walnut strip wouldn't go all the way through. But I did put the racing stripes in there. I'm all about the racing stripes. And I originally wanted to make it so all of my amps were going to be wooden like this. There's just no way in hell. This takes so much fucking work. This chassis right here, I want to say, took me over a week to come up, to build. It was the biggest pain in the ass. These pieces right here that you see in the front is literally a 1/4-inch of walnut with a piece of mahogany, with another 1/4-inch piece of walnut. It is angle cut, and then they were glued together, and they fit as you see them around the amplifier right now. That is done by hand. It is an absolute fucking pain in the ass. They glue into the sides of the amp as you see it, and then I have the border of 1/4-inch all the way around. And when I was building the amp, I was like, you know what? I don't like having the raw, pine all the way around. So then I added in these corners, because I'm a freaking beast and I had to make it more difficult for myself. So I added in the corner pieces all the way around as well. This amp is a pain in the butt to make. I don't even think I have a shot of the back of it. And then some of you have seen this amp from Cancel. So this is my other 5-watt design here. It's very similar in regards to this one here, where it uses a parallel triode going into an EL84. What do you got? Looks epic, and I know it. Yeah, right? This chassis and this entire amp, everything that you see here was handmade. So I don't have any of the build shots of this. You can see it in my video, but this entire thing was handmade. The way it works, and it's kind of doesn't even seem like it should be possible, but this whole piece right here, this whole walnut face, is all one piece. There are wooden dowels in here, but I gave it the heirloom fit to make it look like it was two different pieces. This whole thing comes off in one piece with the plastic in place. And then the lights that you see coming down are up on the top. I wired those in there on the top. And then, of course, you got the chassis. The chassis came raw. I had to cut everything and drill everything, the whole 9. And then, of course, I did my whole, this is all CNC. I did this with a CNC machine. It's the only way you can do it. This was prior to me having a laser burner. What do we got? Oh, wow. Got a few of you in here now. That's amazing. I love it. But this is prior to me getting a laser diode machine. So we're working on that part. I don't have too many other shots in here, I don't think. Oh, man, it went back too far. You can see where I do some of my work. Oh, by the way, I am the owner of a 1961 Corvair. I do work on cars as well, but I have a 61 Corvair that runs like a fucking champ, because why wouldn't it? Yeah, I don't have any other amp shots in this one. This is my JHS video. And sadly, here's one. This doesn't make sense. Some of you get it. So this is my R6 that I sold. This was my track bike. At one point in time, this was a track only machine. But I had to sell it. It was just, this thing was just too beastly for me to ride around on the street. So I bought a pair of plastics, or a set of plastics off of eBay or whatever it was, to basically convert it from a track machine or track only machine to a street machine as you see it now, so I could sell it, get it back out of my hands. I wanted to just focus on the little Ninja 300. I'm going to tell you right now, you do not want to ride with me. You think you're fast? I will spank the ever-living shit out of you with my little Ninja 300. Everybody wants to laugh at that little bike until it's passing them, making them look like a little biatch going through the corners, because my ass does not slow down. All I see is this color right here. What color is that? That color is red. When I'm on the road, the only color I see is red. If you were in front of me, you are dead, because I'm going to figure out how to pass you. And that is why I had to get rid of this machine right here, because at one point I was riding on the streets all the time on this very machine that you see right here, and it dawned on me and the group of people I was riding with at the time that we were basically treating the roads as we were the tracks that we were riding at. And we were already in the A group, and we were starting to get down into the crazy levels of speed. Let's just put it that way. I was probably riding on the street at a top 10 pace for somebody that would be racing at the track that we would go to. So it just finally was like, okay, we're going to quit doing that. We're now just going to focus on, either going to the track only or not riding, or only doing street, but we're going to do it on a smaller machine. So I converted this into a track only bike, and I wish I had it, but I wonder, I know I have a video here. Let's see if we can find it. Let's go down. Oh, it's going to be way down at the bottom. I've showed it in another one of my videos. This guy right here, this one right here. This is, I'm not going to actually show it, but let's get it into a shot. Okay, so this is me on that machine doing a right around a 2-minute lap. That is not my fastest lap ever at this track. Anything at 2 minutes or abouts on Buttonwillow at the time. I mean, this was what, 6 years ago? Yeah, 6 years ago, you were screaming. Yep, that's a 600 all day, every day. This thing here, like 2-minute lap, you were screaming. That was considered to be a screaming fast lap. My best lap ever was a 1 minute 58 at this track, and that's still not even record pace, but it is certainly not a slouch by any stretch of the imagination. And I did that on this machine right here. This machine was sold to the next guy with this level of spec on it. So it had the quick shifter. It had the intake modification I did. I had the short throttle, the velocity stacks. I had the short velocity stacks, quick shifter. I had the insulated tank. I had the anti-slosh in the tank. I had the full-on dyno jet thing, the whole 9 yards. The throttle was redone with the a quick throttle. The brakes were done with, the lines and stuff. I had different brake pads in there, all kinds of everything that you can think of that was done to make a bike quicker. It was done. I had the Vortex, everything, yada, yada, yada. All that crap was done. I had to quit. And then I go and I get a little Ninja 300 thinking, oh, that'll slow me down, right? No, it doesn't slow you down. You're not as fast maybe as you would like to be, maybe coming out of the corners and stuff like that. But what you find is you just never slow down. You just never slow down. You go into the next turn, just balls out. And the next thing you know, you're passing some asshole on a 1 liter bike or a liter bike or whatever. Like he's sitting still and you're just on to the next thing. On this bike right here, about this era, so about 6 years ago, maybe a little bit more, I had Benny Solis on the same track. This little fuck on a 125cc was spinning circles around my ass. This little shit, he's a rock star. He was 10 years of age at the time. No, I did have a steering stabilizer, but I didn't really rely on one that much. I learned without one, so I got used to the whole idea of the front end wobbling around a little bit. Finally, when I started getting right about this speed right here, about the 2-minute lap times at Buttonwillow, about a 1 minute 30 at Willow Springs, right in that ballpark, I finally got one, but it was set pretty much as low as it would go. It was just enough to keep it from getting out of control. I'm one of the anti-steering stabilizer guys. I kind of feel like you need to have the tank slap to learn you what you're doing wrong. Basically, don't hold on to the bars too hard. You got to let it do what it's going to do. It's going to do it anyway, so might as well just let it. I did all kinds of other things. I've dropped the front end to try to get it to steer in more. I play with the rear ride height to get it to do what I want. I had a few friends because they called me no knee because I didn't drag knee anywhere, but yet I was this weird guy that could do like sub 2 minute laps at Buttonwillow. So they either called me Spider-Man or no knee, and it was just literally because my knee never really touched the ground, even though I looked like it should. And it was like I was one with the earth. Or maybe I was Chuck Norris, and whenever I put my knee down, the earth moved away from me or something like that. That's what I like to think. I'm not that much of a god on a bike, but when it comes to motorcycles, I am very, very confident, and I know I have the competence on them. So talking about the 2Cs I was talking about the other day. But yeah, killer machine, this thing. I have it muted. You want to see a 2-minute lap? This is a 2-minute lap. I don't know. We don't need to. Hold on. Let me make sure this is all the way down. Let's go. Let's go. So we just crossed the finish line, if you will. We're going into turn 1 right now. Probably doing about 80 something miles an hour. This is before I started using 4 fingers even. So I was only a 2-finger guy at this point in time. This is the infamous turn 2 over there. That was the front tire in the air right there, that little bop that you heard. little slow through this section here. I think I'm behind somebody right now, because I do end up passing somebody here in a little bit. Coming up to the bus stop here in a moment. I'm walking you through live what's going on. Yep, there is somebody holding me up, so I just passed him right now. So we're going to go into a tight little chicane, and then we're going to start working our way around the long left-hander. Now, while it does not seem like I'm going that fast, I'm doing nearly 120 miles an hour right now. Almost elbow to the ground. Probably the fastest section of the track right here, doing almost 130. Shut it down before going into the Lost Hills. And then just balls out. About 140 through here. Shut it down so you can do about 80 miles an hour through this left-hander. And you just kind of cruise around. Just kind of cruise. It's a long turn. And then get on it. This is before I had a quick shifter too, even. And I'm doing a sub 2-minute lap, or right around a 2-minute lap. So this is going into the last turn. That shutter was the ass end of the bike off the ground right there. So I'm doing this right-hand turn going onto the front straight right now. And off we go. And then we go back into turn 1. That was a 2-minute lap at Buttonwillow. Old. Shot on a fucking potato. So I used to do this kind of stuff. I have some faster laps, and I have some other days and other material. I didn't really post them on this channel because it just didn't need to. So anyway, there is that. What else do we got? I think that's it. I only have one other video about motorcycles on this channel, and it's this one here. And this one here you see on my little Ninja 300 with my yeah. So I got my Jag there. It's a 77 Jag, and then my 61 Corvair, and off we go. But where are we? Let's see here. I want to get to the good fun part. Oh man, where is it? Where is it? Listen to that thing. Listen to that.
Big bumps. There's only one downside of this road. Gotta mind your P's and Q's in a few spots.
So this road is very tight, by the way. If you were on a 600cc, you couldn't do this road. It's just way too narrow, everything. But listen to this bike. Hold on, here it is. Let's see. This is heading back up the hill. This is like the business end right here. Listen to that. And I'm taking it easy, by the way, right here. I'm not trying to hurt myself or anyone else. And you can see, I'm not going all that fast. What, 60 miles an hour going into some of these things? Like nothing. But this bike just sounds so amazing. And it's a little 2-cylinder. This is all it does. Just fucking... Ah! So this is a road nearby where I live. We call it Harris Grade, or Fucker Road. It's Rucker Road is the name of it, but killer little road. It's only good for like little bikes like this. And you can just kind of see it's just a little twisty. Really bumpy though. It's really bumpy. You don't get to have too much fun on here. So I am about motorcycles. I know I don't post much about them, but I am a motorcycle dude. All through and out. I really want to get the new Ducati Panigale. It says 15. Let's see what speed we actually end up at. Yeah, 30 isn't too bad.
A little wet up through here.
It's a little dark. You can kind of see it's a little damp still.
The road's pretty cold too. It was cold here last night. It was under 40 degrees.
That is cold. For us, that's cold.
For you, isn't really all that cold, but that's freezing.
That is freezing.
Bumps. That's the only one downside of this road.
Anyway, enough of that crap. Let's talk more about amps and stuff like that. So I'm gonna get out of this page. So yeah, this is my baby right here. I had to let her go. She's a fun machine, but it's kind of a shame. So this machine right here, I sold it to some crazy guy that lives up in the area near me. I guess he was like a restaurateur or something like that. And he just liked to buy machines like this, hold on to them for a year, and then let them go. So I went over to his place after selling it to him because he had a few questions like, hey, man, what's up with this quick shifter thing? Like, how do you start the bike? Because I got rid of the key. This thing was a push button start only. And he's like, how do you maintain this thing? So I went over to his place and showed him, and he had like a Z06. And he's like, oh, yeah, man, I paid for that thing last year. It's only 2 years old. I'm going to sell it next year, and I'll get another one. He just kept getting the nicest, newest thing. And he's like, I've always wanted a sport bike, never had one. I got to have one. So he bought this one. So a year after he owned this machine, he calls me up, and he's like, hey, man, I'm going to sell this thing to someone else. What do you think? Like, is that cool with you? Do you want it back? And I'm like, no, dude, I'm cool. Go ahead and sell it. It's all good. So he sells it to somebody in the same town in which I live in, and I got to see it once. In this state right here. I have never seen it again, and that was like 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago. And I feel bad because there's part of me that wonders if it is literally wadded up into a pile of aluminum somewhere in the freaking whatchamacallit, in a yard somewhere. Kind of a bummer because this thing was a beast. When I went to the dyno with this thing, it was pushing 108 at the wheel, 108 horsepower at the wheel in this exact state right here. So it's not like a high horsepower model of anything now, but 108 horsepower and a bike that only weighs like 400 and something pounds. Dude, this thing shat and gat, let me tell you what. So getting back to the topic of conversation. So yeah, I use the tub resistors, but I do use them correctly. And imagine this. I got a 30 watt amp. I'm using a 10 watt resistor right here, rated for much, much more wattage than this thing is supposed to take. So you can see I kind of do a similar thing here. This is only a 3 watt resistor, I believe, right here in this. This is a cathode biased again, of course, amp. So in any case, there's so many different ways to do all these things. I'm not getting the kind of activity out of you guys that I would like. You got to give me something. Yeah, I sold it. It will kill me. Yeah, no, I'm going backwards a bit. But you guys either aren't with me or you're just not loving me anymore. So we might, I see there might be 4 of you right now, maybe. I don't know. There you are. Come on, Andy, give me something. What do you got? Bust my balls. Do something. I'm running out of things to talk about right now. It's one of those things like I was just hoping people would be here to just bother me. And I want you to bother me. Even though I don't expect you to bother me. Because you don't, like, nobody actually does bother me. I don't think. Just tuned in. Welcome to the party. I know you didn't go anywhere. I know that. As soon as I saw you pop up with the question mark, I was like, okay, well, at least somebody's here. I'm still learning how to read all the details on this. So just for those of you who are watching me wondering why I'm such a bumblefuck, I've only done, this is my 3rd true live video. I am on the West Coast. Yeah, no, it's still pretty late for me. It's almost 12 o'clock midnight for me. But I am this is my 3rd, maybe 4th live stream, and I'm still learning how to read all the details and stuff. So, Andy right now, what is it, like 4 in the morning over there? 3 in the morning? Something like that? For those of you who don't know, Andy Lederman is a freaking beast. He's done 2 days in a row of video or live streams that were over 10 hours in length. I think the first day was like 11 or 12 hours, and then he did another one the next day that was like another 11 or 12 hours. Like, motherfucker is a beast. What time did you start the other day? So on Friday I was watching you. Yeah, 3 in the morning. Yeah, that sounds about right. So the other day I started watching you. I came in at like, I go to work for myself at 6. I'm usually there about 6:10 in the morning. So I pull up into the office about 6:10. And the first thing I do is call up YouTube and just kind of do a quick little check of things and open my emails, double check my teams, and make sure that there's nobody screaming at me for something. 6 a.m. is when you started? Yeah, so you started a couple hours before I even got in. And I'm like going through the YouTube and I see Andy on there and I'm like, what the fuck? The motherfucker's already up? It's like, I'm already up and I know how late it is over there already. So homeboy is building the cab to one of his amps and he's doing it all in real time. He built an entire cab or a chassis. No, not chassis. What do you want to call it? Cabinet? What do you call it? A shell? I don't know what to call it. For me, it's a freaking shell or a cabinet. Some people call it something else. I have no idea what to call it. But for me, I can't do it in a day. It takes me like forever. So hold on. Let me call up my other. Let's get out of this. This cabinet here, this whole thing took me like 2 weeks to make. And it took 2 weeks for a bunch of reasons. Cab, that makes sense. So obviously this is a combo amp. So I want to say this thing is, hold on, let me bust out the measuring tape. It's right behind me. It's about 22 inches tall by 14 inches wide or something like that. And it's maybe 10 inches deep, maybe 12 inches deep. I can't remember off the top of my head, but you know, the whole thing is designed not like you would think it was. So obviously I put these 2-inch wide. So these pillars here are 2 inches wide. So I had to design a 12-inch chassis to fit in a 12-inch or a 14-inch wide cabinet and fit with the sills. And if you notice, I have walnut all the way inside here, and they all heirloom fit all the way around. So the ceiling has a walnut, liner. The wall here has a walnut liner, and then this lines up for an heirloom fit all the way through. Imagine how hard that is to do when you have to factor the thickness of the Tolex and get this piece to here, this whole thing, which is one piece, as I mentioned earlier, to fit in there with this plexiglass piece right here. All of that fits in there and has, it's flat. It's, you run your finger along that and it's flat right there. It's flat right here. It's flat right there. Like, everything fits perfectly. Such a pain in the butt. Dude, let me tell you, cab building is the hardest part of building a guitar amplifier. The freaking electronicals, all this bullshit right here. I do this shit in my sleep. Like, this is you can't even see it. Doing this shit right here, I was talking to you guys and you couldn't even see it. My apologies. Doing this stuff right here is the easiest thing to do. Doing this, doing this kind of crap right here is a bitch and a freaking half. So I was talking about the pillars that you couldn't see because I was literally pointing at nothing. These things are smooth to the touch, like they line up. So I had to figure out how wide to make this thing prior to putting in the Tolex. The Tolex was kind of like an afterthought. Put in the leather corners, you got it, the whole nine. It's completely lined with walnut. This thing fits in there. This bottom part right here goes up into the chassis by 1/4 of an inch. So this thing pushes in from the front, or from the back, into the front. Even though the front does come off. So the back and the front panel do come off on this thing. It's so 16th, I factored it at being a 32nd of an inch. And then I figured maybe like a 64th of an inch for the glue. And it was, I mean, it just barely fit. This piece right up in here, I don't even know if you can see it, but let's see if I can get it to fit. This piece right here, that is a separate piece, and I had to fit that in there. The whole nine, like this whole thing is fit. It's like nothing is one. This piece right here was, shut the fuck up, get out of here. Sorry, I'm not talking to you guys, I'm talking to Google. This little piece right here, you can't really tell, but this lower piece right here, there's about a 3/4 inch chunk right here that is inset. It looks like an L channel, so there's only 1/4 of an inch on the front side, and it's to give space for the grill. And then on the top side there, it's 3/4 of an inch. So I had to CNC that in, or I used a CNC to shave that in. That's the only magical thing about a CNC machine, is that you can take something like that, set it in there, and tell it, go down X depth and freaking go back and forth a few times. 0.025 per Tolex, something like that. Yeah. It's a pain in the butt. That's all I can tell you, is that this took some work, and the backside wasn't any better. And I don't even know if I have any pictures of the backside. I wish I did. I need to freaking, not there. I don't have any pictures of the backside, do I? No, of course I don't. This is my little Ignator tweaker. Freaking pile. Let me see if I can find some pictures of the backside. I'm gonna do something here. Hold on a second here. I'm gonna do some work. Not that channel I want. Oh my god. Sorry guys. Show more accounts. I want that account. That's the one. I am a troll. I have multiple accounts all over the place, and they all do a different thing for me. Yeah, I don't have anything on that account. What a shame. Hold on. Let's get you out of that view. Let's go to Apple. We're going to go to my Apple account, because why the fuck not? And I don't want to go there. I want to go to iCloud. Sorry, everybody. You're going with me to iCloud. We're doing things in real time, because why the hell not? I want... pretty sure that's one of them. That's not the one. No, that's not the one. So that's the downer, is I got literally so many accounts. I don't even know which one I need to do. I'm going to go look at... Yeah, you can hear me typing away. That's how busy I am right now. It's me with all my passwords and stuff, and I got it wrong. That's apparently not the password. Either I'm drunk or this thing's being temperamental. Sorry, this is not very entertaining at the moment. Oh, this account is being unlocked. Fuck off. It's not fair. Whatever. Well, you can't say I didn't try. Cannot say I didn't try. I'm really trying. So what does it say? Maybe invite you to my live. Dude, I would totally be down to do that. I would totally be down to do that. I wish, I think that's kind of the next step for YouTube, is to make it so you can just call in whoever you want on a live channel. I know that all you're seeing is this. Hold on here. Let's just freaking make it easy on you guys. So if YouTube made it so you could just go to, call in whoever you wanted, kind of like Teams or chat or FaceTime or something like that, I think that's like the next step for this thing. Yeah, I lost everybody. trying to search for that crap, but whatever. I tried to do something for you guys. Fuck off. I see how you are. Don't want to play. It's all good. I think that would be the next best thing that they could possibly do, but I don't see him doing that anytime soon, unfortunately. Yes, I'm still trying to get into this account. Continue with password. And is that the one? Oh yeah, I got it finally. Allow, that is me. So we're gonna go. All right, let's see what we got. There we go. There we go. We're getting somewhere now. Get out of here. I don't want you. Library. Well, I have 1,000 photos, but would you just show me all of them? Oh, I see how it's doing it. So here is, let's get this on over here. So now you can actually see what's going on here. Let me get back into that. So this is me building this guy here. And as you can see what's going on, like building, this is the purple hazel. That's me and my work on this cabinet all together. You can see I got all the markings for that. I wonder how far back we can go. So this is me trying to decide which Tolex. Well, I already knew what Tolex color I was going to use because I had no choice. The owner of this amp was determining that decision, but it was either going to be this panel color or color, and he ended up going with the other one. And you can just see how this thing was designed. I had to have channels on the side. I had to put the channels in for the wires to run through. That's me just doing all the different work. This is the chassis. That is obviously in there. I had to drill all the holes. Again, just more decision making. Getting ready to put the Tolex on. Working on some designs to put into it. Tolex the damn thing. Again, more designs, trying to figure out what tree of life he wanted. Doing some test burns. So what I later learned is that the laser burner that I have a diode laser burner, and it does not bode well for call in the live. Oh, there is a button to call in live. Oh, no shit. Okay, let me know. Next time you want to do that, let me know, bro. I'm down for that. So my laser burner does not do this color very well, I later learned. The copper color, that other color I was showing a couple images back, this color here, this stuff here, burns like a dream for me. Absolutely beautiful. This color here does not do very well with the color of diode that I have for my laser burner, which is unfortunate because I was able to get good results, but I still wasn't super duper happy. And then this is with it nearly done. You can see I got the wires in there. They hide underneath the Tolex there. Another shot, I think. Yeah, this is the backside. So you can see the backside's almost sealed off with the exception of this little slot right there for the power to go in. This is with the back cover on. Again, back cover on. This is kind of where we started. This is what the front looks like. So I got the pillars in there now. Just showing the difference between the two colors, trying to still decide which one I wanted. Like, this is like one of the burns I went through. It didn't go right. There's a bunch of stuff on this amp that just was giving me trouble. But this is one where you can kind of see almost the finished product. So obviously the amp slides in there. So this is all done by me. A lot of the CNC work was done on this guy here to help make all this stuff square and stuff like that. But realistically speaking, all the work is done on the front end. Like all the measurements, making sure that the CNC G code and stuff like that was proper. All that jazz was done in real time. So you can kind of just see how it all kind of comes together. I have no idea what's coming up next. So if you see anything you're not supposed to, let me know. So here you can see what it actually looks like with the finished wood. Let's see here. So again, this is finished wood. Where's the one without the finished wood? It doesn't matter. You can kind of get the idea. So this is the finished wood. The unfinished wood doesn't look anywhere near that pretty. You can see I start putting other fascia pieces in, and it's just, the story goes on and on. This is the back panel here. This is unfinished, of course. So I got my giant L in there. Never doing it that size again. That is way too big. Never going to do that size again for the L. But all one chunk. You can see the front plate now going in there. This is the back plate. I haven't even finished it yet. This is what it would look like. It still has the film on it. How do you share your... So OBS. You got to get OBS, my man. It will change your life. It's not the greatest software. It has fucked me over more times than I can count already. But you know, when it comes down to the brass tacks, when you're doing something like this in real time, you can swap back and forth. Here, watch, hold your ears, everybody. I'm about to play something you don't want to see. So you can do all that kind of shit in like real time. Well, so OBS, you can set up some macros. So I can literally set up my count in screen. So you just see, ATEC, yada, 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 subscribe, this, that, and the other. And it shows a countdown of like 1 minute down to whatever. And then it'll automatically switch into my opening song. And then from there, it will go automatically into this view here. Changed my world. So you have to create scenes. And I don't know that I can share my own screen. This is going to look weird. I think this is going to look really weird when I do it. I'm going to share the screen that I'm currently working on. And it's going to mirror itself like a million times. It's going to look goofy as hell. But I'll show you in real time kind of what's going on here. So there I am a million times. So this screen here is just blank. And then you get the camera view. The camera view, obviously, you know what that is. And then you go desktop. And the desktop is the one that shows you the desktop. In each of these scenes here, though, you can't really see it unless I go, I think, to this one. But each of the scenes that you create over in here, so I got the blank, wait cue, intro, camera, desktop, outro, right? So you tell it screen 2. So I'll click on that, and I'll go properties. And it says capture method, automatic, and then you tell it which display you want it to catch. So if I move this screen over to my other one, so you have to have 2 screens, of course, to pull this off. Or you have to, I think you have to have 2 screens. Otherwise, you're going to end up sharing the whole time. I think there is a way to make it so it doesn't show itself, but I haven't messed with that. I've always just used 2 screens. So in either case, you tell it which screen you want to share, and then that's the one that it'll do what you're just seeing with. So let me move this back over to my other screen. There we go. And that's how you share the different screens. Changes everything. Yeah, you've seen that before. Yeah, no, it's the ultimate way to do it. I haven't gotten crazy. I've only managed a couple of the macros. But the big macros that I have is literally the first 3 scenes in my thing, my stack, if you will. The wait cue, the intro, and the camera. I only do 1 button push. I hit go on the wait cue. The blank I only do for the recording side of things. So when I'm doing recording of just a video straight to the hard disk, not doing live streams, that I don't use that unless it's for that purpose. But I do the wait cue, I hit the wait cue, and then I hit start on my countdown timer. And once it does that, everything else is automatic. So at that point, it goes through the wait cue. As soon as the wait cue is done, it goes right into the intro, plays that. As soon as the intro is done, it goes into my camera view, and then I come in and do the hey YouTube, how is it going, right? I don't know why that somehow turned into my catchphrase thing. Everybody that I was watching the videos at first is like, dude, that's freaking cool. You got to keep doing that. I don't know. So that's why I still do it. That's why I kind of like the whole hand thing. I don't know, whatever. But in either case, that's how you do that. You got to build the scenes, and then you got to tell each scene what you want it to be. And I'll bring this back up again so you can kind of see the different scenes. I can only show you on this screen here, but you hit this plus button down here, and you can enter in the screen. You can tell it, obviously you need to tell it that it needs a microphone input, and then you can add whatever elements you want to it. So there's multiple things you can do. You can tell it to do both screens if you want, but it gets a little weird. All right, so in either case, where else were we? So that's this is obviously progressing through time. You can see my PV-XXX back there and some of my other shit. This is with this piece done, so I've finished this piece. We're getting so close. This is the first rendition of this faceplate here. Yeah, I think this is the final rendition of this faceplate, and you can see I haven't even cut the chassis yet. I'm still looking at getting the holes done. So you can kind of see, for those of you not like Andy and I, where you kind of do this stuff, you do things in an order. And in my case, I did the faceplates and the chassis first before I actually built the amp. So you can see here I did the chassis. I got the ferrules in there to do the bolts in the bottom. I put in an IEC as opposed to my True 1 connector. And I'm working out all the positioning for the holes because everything has to fit to this guy. Right here, obviously. This is what the back panel looks like. Just on and on. This is what the faceplates look like. So these are laser burned. All the holes are cut with a laser burner, etc., etc. I do things a little bit differently now since I've learned. I like having the edges of my amps covered. So I do everything I can to make them covered. So I have like a fascia that goes along the front. So what I do is I lift these up, and you can see I did it on this particular build here. You'll notice that the center of the amp is the center of the amp is here, just underneath the center line of these guys. But I should have moved these up just a little bit more with it, because I have a 1/4 inch fascia that goes along the bottom of this, so it hides the lower corner. But on the back, I didn't get smart yet and realize that I needed to lower everything in the back by that same 1/4 inch. And so on the back it gets really tight along the thing because I use a 1/4 inch fascia on the back that goes across the top side as opposed to the bottom. So all these things here need to come down a 1/4 inch in order to allow that fascia to center up on things. Duly noted, right? This is the handle I ended up using. This is a guy I found on well, there's a couple guys. So Brookwood Leather. I'm going to go back to this other view here. Brookwood Leather, I really, 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 really love his work. I think he does some of the best work ever. Hold on, I'll show you. Get over here, you little... Okay. So Brookwood Leather makes these guys right here. And get in the center. There you go. So he makes these here. Beautiful, beautiful, stout handles. Like, I know that these things will last a lifetime. This is one of the short ones. I think it's like a standard length, not the 7. Is it the 7 inch or the 8 inch? This one's a 7 inch length. The longer ones he makes are 8 inch. I like the 8 inch ones, and I did not specify that when I ordered this particular one. Really bummed me out. So these are the Alpha Dog ones. So these are the super beefy ones. They have 3 layers. These things are great handles. The only thing that's a bummer is you can kind of see here that there's like no travel on the sides, and I'd have to go get the other handle of what I've been using a little bit more lately. But this piece that's down here on the bottom that you can kind of see, that's like the gusset, if you will. I don't know what you want to call it, but what are you saying here? I got the... No, don't you fucking leave now. You can sleep when you're dead. No, I understand, bro. It's okay. Get some rest, and we'll see here in the next couple days. So I don't have much left in me either, so I'm probably gonna get through this part here, and we'll call it a night. But definitely check out that definitely check out the thing with OBS. You can do it. It's the way to go. It's life-changing once you figure it out. So have a good night. But this guy here, this gusset, whatever you want to call it on the bottom, is kind of the only thing that bothers me. This other design I'm using puts this little gusset piece in the middle. It sandwiches in between, and you can actually see it on this one here where the gusset is in the, oh, I guess if I went to that view, you can see it on this one here where the gusset is like in the middle, which allows this thing to lay flat, and it's really cool that way. The quality of this handle is just about as good as this one here. Almost as good as this one. This one is still better. Brookwood leather, check them out. Definitely the highest quality handles out there. They just have a couple little things I would love to suggest to him about changing, and I just haven't done it yet. And I will do that eventually because I want to use Brookwood leather. This other gentleman, I found him on... I found this gentleman here that makes these guys on not Pinterest, excuse me. What is that? Etsy or Etsy? Etsy. And he does a great job. They're great quality handles, but they're just not quite as nice as the Brookwood leather. The price is about the same, but this is the design aspect that I'm looking for. And this gentleman here makes the corner pieces. I needed to make these things in short order, so I didn't have time to try to work out with Brookwood leather to make matching corner pieces to this. So I had to make a gut decision on, not loyalties. My loyalty is to Brookwood, I would say still at this point, but I don't have enough of a relationship with him to tell him that, you need to do the handle like this, and also you need to make corner pieces that match this so that I can use them on my amps. I haven't gotten that kind of a relationship with him, and I expect him not to have to do that. So I kind of went to the direction that would allow me to get what I needed to get right now. That is going to change because I'm all about quality when it comes down to it, and I love supporting the people that will support me, and Brookwood Leathers has supported me, and I want to continue to support him as well. So this handle that you see here that I have will get used in an amp eventually. It is waiting for something special enough to hold it, but for right now I'm using this other company that makes really good quality, next in line if you will. But their big thing is that they make these corner pieces, and that is the thing that I need at the moment, is these corner pieces to match the handle. And I did Pride show recently, but you can just kind of see that's what I've been up to lately. Here we go. We don't need to see all that other crap. So obviously the choices on the knobs, and if you've watched that video on the Purple Hazel, you kind of get an idea. This is me showing him the different options. So you're literally watching the design aspect of this stuff in real time, kind of here in this shot, in these shots. It's just me coming up with how everything's going to fit. So this is actually the amp having been cut out. I literally cut all these holes by hand. All these holes were cut. And this is it starting to come to life right here. So yes, all by hand. Just so you know, all by hand. Somebody had to do it, and I did it. So there is that. Let me get back over in line over here. I want to get things in line. So you kind of get the idea. This is what it looks like. I'm kind of a little bummed about this whole thing here. You can kind of see I had to sand it down. Unfortunately, the person I have that makes the chassis, so I have somebody that just makes the raw chassis, right? And there's no holes cut in it or nothing like that. It's just a box. I don't actually fold the box myself, but I don't have that kind of tooling around at all. I don't even have the space really to do that and work it out. So I have him. It's not like I have him. It's his company. I pay him to create just the shell, and I tell him what dimensions I want, etc. But I have to go through and cut every single hole in this thing. Making the chassis is probably one of the harder parts next to the cabinet. The cabinet is probably the second hardest part to making the whole dang thing. But you can kind of just see how it progresses from beginning to end here as we just start laying out more and more and more and more and more. And I think this one here is, no, that's not even quite close to finish yet. But we're getting there. You can see I got the turret board made out. I've gotten a lot of the heater wiring ran. And you can just see how I do my thing. This is how I do my thing. This is what the inside of the Purple Hazel looks like. I think this is just about done. I've got just this half up here to do. And some of these parts up here left to go. This is after the amp is built, of course, and sitting in the chassis. And this is it after it has been built. And you can see those corners on there. The corners really set it off. The leather corners just can't be beat. If Mesa Boogie got anything right, it was the leather corners that they put on their amp. Just that is, I think, the touch. I'm not a fan of this purple color. Everybody teases me about it. But you know what? That is what the client wanted, and he got it. And honestly, it contrasts really well with the gold and this walnut and, of course, this brown leather here. So you can't beat it in that regard. And then this is what it looked like when it was finished. So this is what it looks like inside of that amp. Goodness, excuse me. This is what it looks like inside of that amp. And you can see my gut sticking out and the shorts I was wearing that day. I'm a normal guy just like everyone else. You can see here, this is the module I use to control the LED. You can see some of the magnetic strips that I ended up using. I didn't end up going with the magnetic strips. They didn't work out quite as I'd hoped. It's a little more of a close-up, but this is how I lay out my amps. You can see everything is straightened out. All the parts are set up so you can see all the values. Everything is lined up the way it's supposed to be. No joke. If you zoom in close enough, you can see all the values of every single one of these things. Sans this guy down there that's underneath, but I don't know how many more of these we got before. Yeah, this is the power section side. So you can see here I even have the, this is my module that I use to power the LEDs. The LEDs are what are used to power the, well, you can't see it. Oh, no! Got to get out of there. I'm going to have to come back and blur that part out. You almost saw my face. You can just kind of see. This is how I roll. The light is on this one here, but it's at the correct level. It's not blinding light, but you can just see how the L glows. That's what it's all about right there. That's that finishing touch. It's all about that finishing touch. Look at that thing. Isn't that beautiful? Damn, Gina. I do some good work, don't I? I'd like to think I do anyway. Just a couple other shots here. You can see the remote controller for the LED that's in there. I think I only got a couple left of these before it starts getting a little weird. Yeah, this is some other amp I was working on. This is at the venue. This is like the very first rehearsal of this amp right here. So this is it in business. And you can kind of see when I did that Purple Hazel like sound clip video where you heard it in action. This is how he runs his amp. So this guy here in the middle is his dry, and these are both his wet. So these little 10-inch angles on the end here. So it's a wet, dry, wet thing. What he does is he goes out of the amp into this Palmer up here, and the Palmer then splits off out into his pedal board, which is down out over here somewhere. Comes back into the Velocity 120 or whatnot, which he uses to power the two angles, which are his stereo signal. And then he uses the power brake to limit the level going into the center speaker here. And he just sets the power brake as kind of his, he gets, how do you explain it? So the level that he gets off the bat is, set from the power brake. So he kind of gets what he's looking for in the room dry. And then he uses the effects and to sprinkle in the amount of wet or stereo imaging that he wants. And that's what kind of, does the biz, right? That's his thing. That's what he does. So, and this is just another, this is actually an input. You're watching here some of the work being done prototyping the Atlas. So it does not look very pretty right now. This is literally after many, many different renditions of the Atlas. So a lot of these parts have been, you can see this guy here has been wiped clean from my hand resting on it. You can see that I literally just tack a wire in here. This is ugly. This would never leave my shop looking like this, by the way. But this is essentially what's going on inside of the my Atlas build. You can see how I built like a little thing here. This is where a turret used to be. That is where a turret used to be. That is where a turret used to be. So there's been some modifications to this chassis. It has not been built once. This thing has been built like 3 or 4 times to get where it's at. And so you can kind of see some of the progression here of how I do that. It does not look pretty because many other things are just tacked in until I decide what it is I'm going to do. Just so you know, I am human. It is not built right the first time every time. This is another shot of the Atlas kind of here, kind of giving you an idea of what's going on inside of there. You can see I used a 221K, literally just flying leads. I got 100 PF going across for some reason. I can tell you right now, this is not what it is at the moment, but it gives you kind of an idea. You can see here I'm using a 680 ohm bias resistor with a 47K tail resistor. This is a cathode biased amp. So there's just all kinds of little different things that you can do, and this is just one of the renditions I wanted to navigate through right here. So you can kind of just see what's going on here, what I've been up to with this build. And it looks ugly because this thing has literally been taken apart enough so that my hand resting on the capacitor has rubbed off the gold. So just to give you an idea, these things do not just occur overnight. It takes months, weeks, and in some instances years to come to the final design that you end up with. And this isn't the final design. I still have to build this amp again to actually get it completed. And this is just another shot kind of what it was at this state. So yeah, and this isn't even the final state right now. You can see here, this is where the EF86 is. It's all kinds of fun stuff going on in this. So even, this is a gig I did at a wedding. You can see how I lay out my runs. This is my stage. This is my stage. This is everything out on the stage at the moment. I don't have all the mics up for the thing, but you can see everything's laid out, ready to go. I work, ladies and gentlemen. When I'm not working, I'm still working. And then this is that amp. I think this is the first actual gig this amp was running at. Horrible shot. This is another one kind of showing a similar scenario for it at that same venue, but different venue, I should say. But what else do we got next coming up here? This is another. I do all kinds of stuff. Piper Cub fly-in. Anyway, you get the idea. So much going on. I'm going to call it a night, everybody. I know it's late for you. It's late for me. I think I've been doing this now for a couple hours. You've heard me yip yap enough. There's so many little things that you can possibly do. I hope I didn't bore you too much with my rambling ons. Obviously, when I initially started this video, for those of you who just kind of tuned in lately, I was talking about a little bit about rectification and why it's different for different people. Mostly kind of revolves around your particular goal that you had in mind. I would say that for Class A amplification, so Class A amplifiers, which would be pretty much anything under 10 watts of power. So you're talking about your Fender Champs and your little Valve Juniors and your GA5s, anything that's like a 5-watt amp. Go solid state. You cannot go wrong with solid state, and there's a reason why. Because the tube rectifier doesn't do anything for it. Because the way Class A works, it doesn't have sag. There is no sag. So there's nothing to worry about on the power supply that's going to affect it. So might as well just go with it. The feel is out of the equation at that point. Now, with Class AB amps, such as this one here that we're looking at, a Class AB amp does pull current from the power supply. Power supply is managed by the rectifier. The rectifier does have an effect on how the power supply does work, of course. So if you have a rectifier that cannot keep up with the needs of the amplifier, so we're talking like a 100 watt amp per se, maybe something with 4 EL34s, 4 6L6s, 4 KT88, something like that. Something where the immediate need for power is there. It's very real. A GZ34 is not going to cut it in terms of the sag, but it does have a feel. So it will sag more in those types of amps, and you'll feel it. You'll hear it. It's there. Andy really likes what I would consider to be over filtered, and it's not that it's over filtered. It's just very linear is the term for it. So it's an extremely linear power section that he's looking to get. I'm looking for something that's a little less linear. So I like using tube rectifiers because they do that very well. In an amp like this, or another amp that's slightly lower in power, like my Atlas, that's only popping out like 23 to 28 watts maybe on a good day. An amp like that, you know, it's just starting to tickle the GZ34. It's just kind of starting to make it work. I'm not really worried about it. As long as I don't have any buzz, or, you know, I'm fully decoupled, or I'm decoupled enough, from the AC element, I'm fine with that. That's cool. Now, how much of a difference will it make when you start giving it the beans and putting a solid state rectifier in there? I don't know. I'm going to test that out. So I have an 18 watt design, as you all know. That's essentially what that Purple Hazel was based on. I don't have it pulled up right now, so it doesn't matter. But the Purple Hazel is my 18 watt design. Now, I do use in that design the EZ81, which does have some sag. There is an element to that rectifier that makes that amp work the way that it currently does, which is probably at this point in time my most popular amplifier. But I do have two of them sitting around. That is to say, I have an amp that is spoken for, and then I have one for me to do with as I please. And we're coming up to the obligatory burp. We need to have the burp. That was a fake one, but we're going to have the real one in a minute. But I need a burp. I've got some beer that I need to put back. So in either case, what I was getting at is that on the amp that is mine, that is for me to play with, I will probably put solid state rectification in it and over filter it, just to play with what Andy was talking about. Not out of confirmation bias or anything like that. Like, I'm interested in his concept. He has a different concept. His design goal is different than what mine is. Now, he says that I'm kind of locked into, you know, like an old school way of thinking, or, you know, a more, not primitive, but what's the word for it? Like, tried and true. Everyone else has kind of already done it, so I'm just doing what everyone else is doing. He doesn't mean it quite as rudely as that, but he's trying to open my eyes up to something new. I can't say that he's wrong, and I can't say that he's right, because I've never tried going to that extreme before. I have amps that are not over, but they are solid state rectified. And of them, there's something about them I don't care for. So I have, how many amps do I have behind me? 1, 2, 3. I have 3 amplifiers behind me that are similar in some sort of design to something that I've already made. No, 4 amps, sitting in front of me that are similar in some design that I've already built or designed around. And neither of them do the thing that I like in the way that a tube rectifier does what I like it to do. So I have the not a GA, it's an Epiphone Valve Junior, right? Now, you're saying, oh, well, like, that's just a fucking toy, right? Well, I can tell you that one's it's a Class A amp, so it doesn't matter what type of whatever's in it, but it's not over filtered, right? So it does its thing. I have an Ignator Tweaker 15, and you've seen a video of that before on my channel. That one, it shouldn't have any problems doing what I ask it to do. It seems to have problems doing what I ask it to do. I don't know quite what it is, but it doesn't always do what I want it to do. It bugs me a little bit. When I want to play quiet, It's really, really difficult. It's too touchy. I don't know if that has to do with the rectification or what. It could be just the design of the amp. That's not the important part. But what I can say is that this guy here, when I use it, always does kind of what I expect it to do. It's got this softer touch to it, right? Even in an amp like this, the the 4EL84 AC30 kind of design, even in my design, is a pretty raunchy little amp. Like, this thing's a beast for a 30-watt amp. It's I designed it to be a little bit thinner than some of my other designs. You know, I wanted to kind of keep it in that vein, but it's still pretty ballsy. It's got the girth to her. But the big thing about it is that it is mean. It is raunchy. But when you dig in, it has this a little bit of give. It's always like right on. It always seems like it's right on the verge of just sailing away and running off with you. So if you dime everything, you turn everything all the way up, that thing is going to be just ready to sing at a moment's notice. It's just right on the verge of instability. And I kind of like that about it. But the nice thing is that the solid state rectifier, I think, is what kind of holds it there. So this amp right here, even though it has nothing to do with Dumble-like characters, is the most Dumble-y amp, if you want to call it that, in terms of its sound, of all the amps that I've made so far. This thing does that chewy, oversaturated kind of thing. It just does that thing when you dime it all the way up. When it's clean, for the most part, it does what an AC30 does. It's a little weird. I don't know why, but that's what it does. So you just never know until you build it and turn it all the way up. Now, I designed my amps to be turned all the way up. So if you turn every knob all the way to 12, it's going to sound good. It's going to do a thing. For sure, it is going to do a thing. That is a me thing. I know that there are some companies out there that, you know, turning it up all the way is not, it's not a design criterion. It's not a factor. Who does that, right? Nobody does. That's why I'm more on the low watt side of things. I prefer lower wattage amps for that reason. And I kind of feel 30 watts is that magic zone when you're between 25 and 35 watts. So right around the 30 watt range. When you turn it up all the way, it's probably going to be louder than it needs to be. But by the time it starts getting to the volume you want it, it is going to be very saturated. It is going to be dirty. It is going to do all those things that you would expect it to do. That is a me thing. I don't know if I'm wrong. I don't know if I'm right. I seem to feel like I'm in kind of the right area because my supporters kind of run with that. I tend to have good luck in that regard. My 18 watt is a primary example. That's my flagship amp at the moment. Who would have thought that an 18 watt amp would be the flagship? And it really, what it is that when it comes down to it, at about the time that it is the level that you want it to be, it is doing the thing you want it to do. That's the only thing I can equate it to, is that the thing you want it to do, it is doing it at the level you need it to do it at. Does it do clean at that level? No, not necessarily. It's still a sub 20 watt amplifier. So, no, it's not going to keep up with a heavy hitting drummer. But it'll clean up a little bit. It'll get to what most consider to be clean at that level. But it does a pretty nice saturated gain sound. It does a nice crunch, I guess, if you will. Some people like it, some people don't, because it does kind of have some of that 18 watt thing going for it, right? Because it is essentially an 18 watt amp. Now my 30 watter here, same. It's very AC30-ish in many regards until you start getting to its upper limit. About the time you start getting in the power tubes involved, that's when it starts to go away from like AC30 more into the Dumble-y kind of thing. It really is just this chewy, saturated thing that it's just weird. Like, until you hear it and play with it, you just don't get it. It's like butter in your fingers. And I think a little bit of it has to do with the phase inverter, or not the phase inverter, the rectifier. I don't know that it would do that with a solid state rectifier and being overly, I'm using that term loosely, but highly filtered, rectifier section. So what I'm going to do is take my other 18 watt, one of my personal 18 watt that I have, not my prototype, but the other one that I have. I got 3 of them sitting in my space right now. I'm looking at all 3 of them at the moment. One of them is already spoken for, so somebody else owns that already, but the other one is mine, and the other one is, of course, the prototype. So the other one, we'll call it the other one from now on out, is going to get treated with this over filtration type idea. I'll pull out the EZ81. I'll slap in a set of diodes, which they're actually already in there, but I'll slap in the diodes and wire it up in such a way, I'll add another capacitor across. So this guy here, this is the first, oh, you can't see it. Now you can. So this guy right here, that's the first capacitor in the system, right? So imagine this is the 18 watt. So in the 18 watt, it's not a 30 or 47 UF, it's a 33 UF or something like that. Well, what I'll do is I'll put like 100 UF or 200 UF or some other high value UF filter there. So it's, overtly filtered. And maybe what I'll try to do is tack some others over the top of some of these other ones just to see what it's like being over filtered. And just see what it feels like, see how it changes. Maybe I will like it, maybe I won't. What I do know is going to happen is that the voltage is going to change. So I think an EZ81 drops like 17 or 20 volts in that design. So I'm going to increase by 17 or 20 volts at least on my plates, which may or may not be for good. It may not be for bad either. But I don't know how that's going to shift my bias, so I'm going to have to rebias the amp for sure. I know I've been going on a bit here, but we're going to talk about that. I have not pushed out any tone videos yet with my 18 watt other than the Purple Hazel video. That one kind of gives you an idea of what it sounds like a little bit. I didn't really go through like every possible scenario with it. I didn't do a live mic of it. I just kind of had either the iPhone in the room kind of thing or the Captor X. I have a what do they call it? 2 Notes Captor X, and it gives you an idea, but it's still not. To me, it's never sounded right with the Tone X. The Tone X kind of just gives you an idea of what the amp will do when it's turned up all the way. Yeah. I mean, I thought it sounded great. I think it's a great sounding amp. So I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure if I've really done any video that truly exposes what my amps sound like. I have one that I did for the fundraiser build one that I did with some tracks that Rhett Scholl had put out. And I thought that one sounded good. I did another one that kind of showed the Champers build. So I showed a before and an after, and that one definitely showed like the difference between get back into this view here. The difference between a what are the words I'm looking for? Like the stock amp and where I went with it. It didn't sound all that much different, but it was tighter. It had a little bit more gain on tap, and it was just a little more rounded out. It wasn't quite as splatty, I guess is the term for it. That amp actually ended up getting called or dubbed the DLB, which stands for Dirty Little Bastard, because it is a dirty little bastard. When you get it cranked up, like that thing's pretty mean. It does a neat little thing, and it's not like any champ I've ever seen. So I don't know, different strokes for different folks, but so yeah, going back to the 18 watt, my plan is to put in a much higher level of filtration into it, and just try to get an idea of what Andy's perhaps alluding to. Maybe I am, maybe I do have some wool pulled over my eyes. I don't know. I hope not, I'm pretty open-minded. I'm more about empirical evidence than anything. When somebody is just like saying, hey, you got to do this, or, you're just a dumbass, then I kind of sit there and wonder, like, okay, well, is it just their experience, or do they really know something I don't know? And so I will go and I will check that out, because sometimes you'll find that not, I wouldn't say too often. I think a lot of us are pulled to bias, like, what we like, right? And I definitely have kind of a feeling about, tube rectification. And it's not that it's the end all be all, but it's something that I have noticed in many of the builds. That is the only thing that's different between my amp and this other amp, is I have a tube rectifier and I have the voltages where I want them to. I like lower voltages, so that is a me thing. I've talked about this before. It's not necessarily common for people to want to run lower than normal voltages on their plates. And that makes it difficult because it definitely changes the game. I don't have high wattage amplifiers. I think one of my highest wattages is literally right at 30 watts. Most all of the other ones are sitting somewhere between 20 and 30 watts. With the exception of the 18 watt, which is literally right around the 18 watt mark. So, if you're into the 50 watt thing and you have to have 50 watts, then 30 watts ain't going to do it for you, which means my amps ain't going to do it for you. If you're one of those types that is like, I have to have a high gain amp and it has to be 100 watts plus, you're not going to like my amps, period. Because none of my amps do that. They don't do that thing. Not yet. Eventually, I have to do that. There is going to be a point where I will have a 100 watt amplifier. I mean, there's just no way around it. I understand that. It's not where I want to go, though. No, you're right. Nobody needs more than 18 watts. And I feel that way. Like, I understand that. And that's what got me into it, was when I bought the Ignator Tweaker 15. I was in this band, and, the drummer was pretty heavy hitter. It wasn't, John Bonham, like, slamming it out like that kind of level, but it was one of those things where it got clean enough to be clean. It's as clean as anybody these days. If you ask, what's his, Beard's, Fluff, if you ask Fluff what his clean is, like, his clean was my distortion, really. I mean, that's literally how dirty he likes his cleans, right? Some other people, their idea of clean is what I consider to be fully distorted. Right? So you always got that level of whatever in it, but that is what kind of opened me up to the whole idea. I was like, okay, well, so you don't really need a 100 watt amp. And I have a 100 watt amp that I toured with a lot. And it always worked for me. It wasn't that it didn't sound good. It was just that it was always more than I needed it to be, because I never turned it up all the way. And I always thought, well, what am I missing by not turning it up more? Because it was either you were way too loud. So I had a PV Triple X. I could never turn it up all the way because it was always either way too loud or way too saturated. And I like that sort of sound. But when I got that Tweaker 15, it was just like, okay, I can get that saturated sound and not be deafeningly loud. You know that you're doing good when everybody in the crowd's saying, turn it up, be louder, right? And that's kind of where I feel I was at once I started getting to that degree, was like, oh, okay, I got a 50 watt amp and people are telling me that they feel like I need a little bit more. And I know that I'm not turned up nearly all the way. So then I got an 18 watter, and that was kind of the whole idea. It was like, oh, I'll just build an 18 watter. We'll be cool, right? It's a couple more watts than the 15 that I had, the Tweaker 15. And, I expected it to do about the same thing. Lo and behold, it really did. And then some. I feel that my 18 watt, while it doesn't have the amount of distortion that the Tweaker 15 does kind of the thing. And it does it with a heck of a lot less stuff in between the input and the output. Keep in mind, my 18 watt design is literally one gain stage straight into the phase inverter, which the phase inverter is considered the output section. So you got one gain stage straight into the output section, and it does all that work with that one stage. So if you've listened to the Purple Hazel at all in any any of the 18 watt videos that I did, even the one where I was on that 18 watt fizz thing, the Paul Ruby mod thing, that is a very good indication of what my little 18 watt can do from clean to mean. So there is that. Now, it does not do JCM 800 levels of gain, obviously. So neither do much of my other current designs. I have one design right now that might get into JCM 800 territory, and it's probably the closest thing to the JCM 800 that I have built. It's I don't even have a name for it yet, but it has two EL34s in it. It's plopping out about 23 to 26 watts, maybe 27, right in there, somewhere in the 25 watt range. It uses a GZ34 for the rectifier, and it uses two gain stages. Both of them are in parallel. So it's basically my parallel input channel. So we'll go to here to kind of get an idea. It's this thing here twice. So I have this cascading into another one of that, and then going into the phase inverter, which does the rest of the work, right? So there's not anything super crazy about it. Preamps from, yep. Yeah, like the Corn Ford. Yeah, that's essentially where I've kind of gone with my design criterion. I don't know if you heard me talk about it in other videos or not, but how to explain it with as few number of words as possible. I started as one of those guys that liked high gain amps that were single channel, and I would just use the volume control because I didn't use all the available gain in the amp. I'd get to the point that I wanted it to, and I'd use the volume control on my guitar to kind of scale back a little bit. So my cleans were never really clean. They were just clean-ish, right? And then when I wanted the whole grit and, the whole 9, the oversaturated, turn the volume all the way up. And if I need a little bit more, I would usually have a boost pedal, and I would literally use a clean boost. That did the thing for me. So that's kind of where I kind of got the idea of, okay, people really don't use the amps for the distortion anymore. A lot of the effects are sitting on the ground. So if they want, a dirt pedal, they throw the dirt pedal in. They want a boost pedal, they throw the boost pedal in, and it's usually before the dirt pedal, right? So it would always be a compressor, a grit pedal, or a boost pedal of some sort, and then the grit pedal, maybe a distortion pedal, and then your reverbs, delays, and all that other fun stuff, right? Or your delays and reverbs, all that fun stuff. And then it would go into the front of an amp that was just on the edge of breakup, as they call it. Yeah, I think it's true. I don't know. That's been my experience. In my 30 some odd years of playing, it just seems like that's what they would do. So when I started dinking around with the 18 watt, I was really trying to get the Doom in a box sound. I was shooting for something a little bit more raunchy than Orange was creating, Mad Amp and all that stuff. I wanted to call it the Box of Doom. It's really what I was shooting for. Here's the problem. I could get it there, and I could do it with the number of tube stages that were already built into the amp. So I had, the two front end stages, so 4 triodes, if you will, and then the phase inverter. I could do it with that. Could not do clean. And that was my biggest thing, is I wanted clean to mean. The clean was absolutely atrocious. It would never do it. It was always too dark, and it was always just too fluffy and flubby. But when you had that amp cranked, it did Doom. That's what I was going for, because that's what I kind of felt like the amp was kind of driving me towards. That's what I felt that it was driving me towards, until I was finally like, I can't get anything out of this amp that I'm happy with. It's just not doing it for me. Let me go back to the roots. Let's make it as simple as I can possibly make it. I'm going to go 1 triode straight into the phase inverter, which is the power section of the amp. And if I can't get a good sound out of that, then it's not me, it's the amp, right? It has to be the amp at this point. I did that, and it just went, whew. It was just like this, like the doors opened, And the angels, you could just see them right there. You could touch them. You could feel them. It was just like warm and fuzzy. It was everything that you wanted a clean amp to be was right there. It felt like your fingers were just enveloped in this glorious sound and feeling. And it was just like, oh, okay, we're on to something. So now I have this extra, half of a tube stage in there. I know if I put them in parallel with each other, the noise floor will drop a little bit and it'll get a little more, even more juicy and warm and fuzzy and all that fun stuff. Let's try that. So I did that, and then that was like, oh, hell yeah. It was just like this three-dimensional, like the sound wrapped around you, and it was, oh yeah. And it was so clean. The dynamic range, that was the biggest thing, was the dynamic range. When you played Whisper Quiet, it was whisper quiet. Dynamics, how many? I'm not kidding. It probably took 30, maybe 40 different designs to get there. I tried everything. I tried Dr. Z schematics. I tried Trainwreck schematics. I tried Mesa schematics. I tried Bogner schematics. Like every kind of preamp design I could think of. Orange, Mad Amp, Fender, you name it. I tried just about every single possible preamp design I could think of that would work within what two tubes had to offer. So 4 gain stages. I even had some Dumble stuff. They all did something, but it didn't do the thing. Like it just never hit me. It was just, okay, cool. Let's put it back this way. No, let's go this one. Let's try that one. And then when I did that was the eye popper. And it was crazy because I didn't put a tone stack in it. It was straight from the tube into the output. I think I put just the volume pot in there just for the S's and G's. And that was it. And it was just bloom. It had all this bloom. It had the highs. It was crystalline. It did all the things that it was supposed to do. All the things. I loved it. It was beautiful. And then I finally got my hands on an attenuator. I didn't have an attenuator at first, so it was almost impossible for me to turn the amp all the way up. And I finally realized, it's like, okay, well, I can't play this thing clean all the time. So I put the master volume in it to try to get, some level of dirt out of it. And it was a neat crunch. So the phase inverter distortion that you get out of it is crunchy, at best. It's not the greatest sounding distortion ever. It's not meant to do crunchy, or it's not meant to do distortion at all, realistically. So when you turn the master volume all the way down and you turn the preamp volume up, it gets crunchy at best, but it doesn't sound all that great. I didn't intend for it to be ran that way. But once I got the attenuator and I could actually turn the master volume all the way up, so all the volumes were all the way up, that was when it was just like, oh, that's what an 18 watt does. And it's glorious. Let me tell you, when that thing is just, wow, you're just like, oh my goodness, that is so cool. How the hell are you getting that out of one gain stage? Like, it is nothing but power amp distortion at that point. And it's just this glorious raunch that's just barking at you the whole time. I love it. I love that. And it turned out to be the flagship amp, because everybody I showed it to was just like, holy hell, I'm in tone heaven right now. So that's been my experience with it. I'm not trying to oversell it. That's been my experience with that design. Does not generate enough distortion on its own to do a full-on band, though. Yeah, right? I'm sure we can work out something. If you want it in Australia, I'm sure we can make out. I can do a 240 volt. I don't know what voltage you guys are running over there, but I'm sure we can pull it off. It does. What was I just saying? Distortion, not enough gain. No, it doesn't do enough gain to do like late 80s kind of stuff. Like you're not doing, what's the word I'm looking, like Randy Rhoads with it or anything like that. Hey, take care, my man. Have a great night. Thank you for hanging with me as long as you have. I mean, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, so power to you, man. Have a wonderful one. Sleep well. Yeah, 240. Yeah, no, it can manage that. So, But sleep well. I'm about to close up here too. It's getting late and I need to get to bed as well. So, for sure, talk to me. We'll figure that out. But so you need to have a pedal in front of it to really get the remainder of that level of gain. Yeah, right. Oh shoot, what is it over there? It's like 6, 7 in the morning probably. Yeah, no, I'll get some sleep soon. I'm used to this kind of stuff. This is what I used to do, is stay up all night anyway. So, none of my amps really do the full on gain thing. So they're not doing JCM levels of gain. Don't ever expect any of my current lineups to do that for you. All the distortion out of all of my current lineups is coming from phase inverter back. So it's either phase inverter distortion or power amp distortion. More or less by design, which is why we're doing these pedals here in front of you that we're talking about or have been talking about. For me, it was just like, okay, you get the amp at the edge of breakup. Again, just kind of in my understanding and research over the years of how other musicians utilize their amplifiers. So it was just kind of one of those things like, okay, so nobody really actually uses the amp for the actual distortion. They use a pedal in front. That's cool. And then it just turned out that I really, really liked how my amps reacted when running it in such a way. Now we're at the point where we're finishing up the job. So I bring up Bob Zika quite a bit, or have been at least lately. Bob Zika kind of has a similar thing going for him. The amps don't have but 2 knobs on them. I think one's a volume and one's a tone. That's it. Like that's all he needs. And that's realistically all you need. Now the way he does it, honestly, is you have the volume and it just churns up the input volume. All right? Makes sense. And the tone is exactly what you think it is. It's just a tone knob. Every bit of the magic is done inside of the amp itself, which is why he has the Gain Master and the ADG, ADG, which is asymmetric distortion gain or master or something like that. I don't know. But he's got 2 different flavors now of distortion. The ADG is a little bit dirtier than the Gain Master, and the Gain Master has more of that fluid kind of sound to it. Even though both of them are kind of fuzz designs. I'm not 100% sure what he's doing with those. As my understanding goes, it is a tube circuit, but it is essentially a fuzz pedal. I think it uses germanium or something in there. He's got some sort of part in there that is diminishing in supply, and he can only build so many more of these things before that supply is diminished. And I think he said something like the number of 50, which might be why the ADG came about. It was a way for him to continue on somewhat of that lineage of the older design, but work around that idea with newer components. I'm guessing. I don't know. I can't imagine that you would try to make the next era of your design out of something that's got a diminishing supply, which is why I build my amps a lot of the way that I do. Is I'm not trying to build amps where the supply is going to diminish. Like, I don't see the value in trying to use a part like this or something like that might be obsolete in 5 to 10 years from now. And in 20 years when this needs to be replaced, you can't find it, can't get it, and you're fucked. That's just, to me, that carries no value. Same goes for building things that have some wild, crazy, unobtainium, germanium or some weird tube that exists in it. It carries no value if 20 years from now you can't get the part if it fails. So now I've got this thing that might be worth more money than it was when I bought it, but it's worthless to me because it doesn't work right and I can't repair it anyway. And anything that I repair it with is going to detract from the value of it anyway. What's the freaking purpose? So I try not to be so elusive with the designs or, the parts that I use that I know in 20 years from now, they're not going to even be available. At least 20 years from now, these parts here, sure. Yeah, it's time for bed. But in 20 years from now, you're going to be looking for a Dale Vichy. They're not going to make it anymore, but there's going to be metal film. No doubt about it, there's going to be metal film resistors. And they're going to be every bit as good as this resistor here is. No ifs, ands, or buts. Maybe Sozo won't be around anymore either. Or Vichy. I'm sure some of them will be around in one way or another, but there's always going to be this style of resistor sitting around somewhere. These, radial, or axially mounted parts. These are always going to be available in one way or another. And it's going to be driven by you guys up there. It's going to be driven by you guys continuing on and doing what we're doing right now, which is building guitar amplifiers. Your interest in them and stuff like that. I can't believe there's still some of you on this thing with me at the moment. At this time of night, I think there's 4 of you now still, maybe less, maybe more, but I managed to have you guys around for 15 minutes is the average view time. I mean, we've been doing this now for almost 2 hours. What is the count? 2 hours and 10 minutes. That's a pretty long time. So the fact that I got as many of you as I have, like, it goes to show that some bumblefuck like me can talk about this crap, and you guys are going to sit around and listen to it. And it's because your interest in this kind of stuff here, just keeping that whole thing alive. There are a few of us out there that are trying to teach you how to do this because the cost of amplifiers is going up just ridiculously. It's going up super duper ridiculously. Marshall just released their hand wired, modified version of their amps. It's $3,600. Marshall's basic JCM 800 that has been a JCM 800 for years and 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 years since the 1980s. They haven't changed it really. They've had reissue after reissue after reissue. It's finally doing a modified version of it, and it's more money. $3,600, $3,700, $3,900 or whatever it is. It's more money now than it is to buy a Friedman that is basically a modified JCM 800. Mind blown right now. Like, it took them 30 years to realize that they could build a modified version of their own amp and sell it for more money than all the people out there that are modifying their amps and selling them. It baffles my mind. So obviously there are people that can't afford to buy that type of amp every day, and not that they were attainable really anyway. Most of them are pretty pricey, most JCM style, amps. And I think that's just, I bring up JCM a lot because I kind of feel like it's the most popular high gain amp that you're going to buy these days. Maybe it's not a Rev, like G series, G120 or something like that. Maybe it's not an Angle Fireball. Maybe it's not a Mesa, dual rec or something like that. Maybe it's not a Randall XYZ. It's not one of those. It's not actually a high gain amp. But as far as high gain amps go, somebody at some point in time has always had like a Marshall's derived design. Most of those amps are kind of in that vein, if you will, to a degree. I think most of them kind of evolved away from that. But, there's been that point where everybody's kind of just wanted of a Marshall. So people are looking for that kind of thing. Everybody loves a nice Fender blackface design or a deluxe reverb type design. Everybody. Like, there's just nobody that's going to, snub their nose or whatever that term is for when they flick their nose at it. Nobody's going to look at a Fender Deluxe Reverb and freaking say, oh, hell no, right? Like, it's an amp that has stood the test of time for all the right reasons. Same goes for many other Fender designs out there. You put a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe on a stage, if it's the only amp that they could get on the rider for a festival or something. There it is. You've been burped on now. It's official. It is a tech show now. I'm sorry. Excuse me. That was rude. I say that every time, but you pretty much always get burped on. So now you've just been burped on. At least it's late in the night. Just tell your wife it was someone else. It wasn't you. But yeah. So, let's say you're that guy that is playing a local festival or something like that, and they provide the amplification for you and the drums and the bass rig and all that jazz. You're pretty much always going to either be Fender Deluxe, Fender, 5E3 or something like that, or a Hot Rod Deluxe or something like that, right? That's like the standard for just about every stage on the planet when no one has any kind of preference. Because why? Because everybody's using pedals now. I don't know. For me, it's more about the build quality than anything. Like I feel like any amp can really sound good. Like there's a tool in the thing to make the amp sound good. It would be nice if the amp always just sounded good on its own naturally. I've had hit or miss with some of them on that regard. I never really got along with Fenders all that well. I don't like that mid scoop thing that they got. To me, it's just a little too much, and I just can't deal. Right? That's a me thing. That's not everybody thing. That's just a me thing. So I like having the mids there. And that's when I started getting into more of the matchless kind of designs. I don't really care for matchless's sound, like the matchless amp sound. To me, they're a little bit too thin. They do the country twang really, really well. So they have a thing that they do really, really well. And the same with the Dr. Z's. The Dr. Z's to me kind of have like that country twang thing kind of just dialed. Like they really do that thing. And it's no wonder why Brad Paisley really likes Dr. Z amps, right? Or at least a few of them. I haven't had any Dr. Z amps that have come across my stage where they were just balls, right? Like just straight up balls. I had a Bad Cat amp that came across my stage a few times. I can't remember. I think it was a Hot Cat 30. Oops, sorry. It was a Hot Cat 30, and it just didn't hit me. It sounded like a cool little grind to it. It had that nice, neat little grind, but it wasn't balls. It didn't have the balls. I'm all about the balls. Like, we're talking like AC/DC kind of balls. Or Black Sabbath balls. Like, I want some girth. I want some meat. I want some beef. I want the beef in there. But I still like that saturated lead fluid kind of sound. So I'm shooting for somewhere in between there. So pedals. That's what pedals are for. They get through there. But ladies and gentlemen, I've had enough. It's been damn near 2 hours and 20 minutes or something like that. I think we're going to call it a night. We'll do this again. This was kind of an impromptu just talk about amps in general, and it devolved into talking about motorcycles. I showed you some videos on that. We talked about some of my other builds. These things are all built by hand, no joke. So do not ever doubt that, these things are built by machines. I'm the machine. These things are built one by one by hand every time. So thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one. Take care. Goodbye.